Is it that time? Is it that time again? It's Thankful Thursday. It's Thirsty Thursday. I know we have our coffee this morning, which is awesome. And yeah, if you notice, it looks a little different here. I'm in a different spot, but I'm still here, kicking it live on Live Beyond Default. Thank you all for showing up this Thursday morning. Throw it in the chat where you are, whether you're in a local town in the Chicagoland area or perhaps out of state. Great to hear from you. Appreciate it. Josh, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I appreciate you. I haven't seen you for a while, and love you, brother. Appreciate that. Yeah, it is a beautiful day in Chicago. In fact, we definitely flipped over to the fall weather. Has anybody noticed? There's a ton of Halloween stuff out. You've got pumpkin lattes flying everywhere. And you can definitely tell, like, even when you look up in the sky, that the blue is a darker blue. It's just crisper. It's just cooler. And we're getting into that winter season. So this is a great way to kick off the fall with another episode of Live Beyond Default live stream. Again, thank you all for showing up. So let's get this party started. Age is a question of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. That's from Leroy Satchel Paige. He was a Black Major League Baseball pitcher whose career spanned 5 decades in Major League Baseball. And on that note, welcome to this episode of Live Beyond Default live stream. It's episode number 74, and it's your weekly dose of personal growth. My name is Dave. I'm your host, and today we are live from the loft. Yes, I said it. Live from the loft in downtown Arlington Heights, where I live. We're changing it up a little bit. We've got the blue chairs. We have the plant next to me, and we have an epic show for you today. And of course, if you're listening to this show, you're growth-minded, you're self-reflective, you're honest with yourself, you're showing up every day to be your best self, and you're willing to take feedback because, of course, feedback is the breakfast of champions. And we all know we're doing the best we can with what we have at this time and always. So I hope everybody had a great weekend this past weekend. It was fun for me. This is a banana. And I want to share something with you because this is a big part of my energy. This is a big part of my smoothies. And I just love the taste of bananas and the texture. They're so good. Well, we're not going to be eating a lot of bananas in the near future because if you know that the ports shut down, so bananas come through these ports, and until this strike is done, we're not going to be eating many bananas because you can't put them on the side because they get really brown. Did you ever realize how often you buy bananas and it's like 2 days later, they're brown? Yeah. Hello. Welcome to this world. Why do you always get brown in 2 days? How do we keep the bananas from lasting? I'm calling the banana gods and goddesses of the world. Yeah, so we're going to be running low on bananas. It's okay. It's all good. And just stock up on them now because I love them in my smoothies and they're good for us. All right. 3 reasons why we are grateful today. Let's remind ourselves that gratitude is the key to happiness. And without gratitude, there's no happiness. And without happiness, what's the point? We all get in a funk sometimes. And this episode is going to show us how to get out of that funk again, but most importantly, figure out some cool things about our mind, our body, our soul, and how we can apply that to our business and into our relationships. So drop in the chat what you are grateful for today. I am grateful for some new friends that have popped in my life lately, to mention Brandon, to mention Lucas. Those 2 guys have been a big impact and have challenged me to be my better self. And of course, some people that have been in my life for a while, like Nate and Sean and Radka, and of course, Carolyn and Alan and Scotty and Tom. I just appreciate all my friends. And good morning, Sid. Thank you for showing up. So drop something in the chat that you're grateful for today. And let's get on with this. The topic for today is don't get old. Don't get old. That's all there is to it. We don't have to say anything more. Show's over. No, there's a lot to think about that. So a little bit of history around that term, don't get old. The history behind it is my grandma, Sarah Aloisio. Oh, what a beautiful soul. So Sarah died in 2019. And actually, I watched her, witnessed her take her last breath. And I think she waited for me. I think she waited for us to get there before she died. And I truly believe that. That was in 2019. It was in a home in Wheeling, Illinois, and that was before Rona. So there was no shutdown. We were still able to visit her. In 2019, she died at the age of 107. Can you imagine 107 years old? How epic that must be. She was born in 1912. 1912. Like, cars were barely even out then. What was even happening in 1912 at that point? But yes, she died at the ripe old age of 107. And what she used to say on a regular basis is, "Oh, David, don't get old." She would say, "Don't get old." And I think it didn't mean that it sucks getting old. I think it meant keep the young mindset. I think it meant maybe challenge the norms and be your authentic self and show up with happiness. That's what I think don't get old meant when Sarah said that. I don't think it meant being old sucks. Yeah, I mean, some things aren't going to work as well, right? Some things are going to change, of course. Still, though, I took it as such a powerful theme that every time I would walk out of there from seeing her, and I just took that every day. So that's what Sarah said. Don't get old. And I'm going to share with you a few of her secrets of how she stayed young. If you're just joining us on Live Beyond Default live stream, episode number 74, your weekly growth dose of personal growth. I'm Dave, and I'm here live from the loft. So yes, changed up the scenery and changed up the location. All right. Radka says she's grateful to wake up on a sunshiny day, healthy, with her cat softly purring in her ear. Yes, she waited. Yes, Grandma did wait. Awesome. Thank you for reminding me of that. Michelle says, digging in the new setup. Yes, dig in the new setup. Oh, the setup. Michelle, I think, were you here recording a live stream once back in the day? I think that you were, actually. And Radka says, I can just hear her. Yes, we can all hear Grandma, or as I like to say, Sarah Aloisio. So let's all remember what Sarah Aloisio said. Don't get old. And I took it as to keep that young mindset, to keep that beginner's mindset, that curiosity when you see something and you wonder what it is, and you don't take it for granted because other people tell you things. That's what don't get old means. So what were the secrets that kept my grandma, who was alive until the age of 107, what kept her alive? Number one, take notes here. Number one, she danced. Yeah, she danced. Now, I know that may sound silly, okay? And I know that some of the people out there might not like dancing, or we might be a little embarrassed to see what we look like. Dancing, though, It's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, it's grounding, it's being your authentic self. And you know what? I'm not that great of a dancer. I am a great dancer though, because I love it when I'm doing it. And I don't do that often. When I'm celebrating somebody's wedding or somebody's anniversary or somebody's life, dancing is awesome. I just absolutely love it. And I know a lot of the people listening and watching love dancing too. And if you don't, and you're a little embarrassed, next time you're at an event, I challenge you to live beyond default. Get up on that dance floor and dance, okay? All the ladies are always saying, get out here, get out here. They want us out there. Why? Because they love dancing. And don't you love being with the ladies? Whether you get what I'm saying, right? Get out there and dance. That's something that Sarah Aloisio did, and it was super cool. Michelle, yeah, digging the new setup. Michelle says, oh, yes, we made coffee. Yes, we made bulletproof coffee here. That's right. Love my bulletproof coffee. Michelle, keep us posted on when your next bodybuilding competition is. You're awesome, and you so inspire all of us. Thank you for being you. All right, Todd says, about to hike in the mountains and fish for trout. Staying young. Todd, it's good to see you. It's good to hear from you. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah, hiking in the mountains and fishing for trout. How awesome is that? That's a way to stay young, being out in nature. Okay, so we're going to stay on path here with Sarah Aloisio's ways to stay young. The 3 top ways she likes to stay young, coming at you live from the loft today in downtown Arlington Heights. Okay, number 1 was she danced. Number 2, she never held a grudge. Imagine that. She never held a grudge. I want everybody to think about that for a moment and take a breath and really feel that in your heart. Who right now are you angry at? Who have you not forgiven in your lives? Who are you holding a grudge against? Who maybe did something wrong to you or hurt you or fucked you over at one time and you're still pissed off about it? Holding a grudge is going to shorten your life. Yes, I said that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not Dr. Dave, but I'm saying it. Holding a grudge, you're keeping that bad energy inside of you. I've done it. I do it. And I realize that it doesn't work. You're only hurting yourself. And then why would you want to hurt the other person, even if they did something bad to you? Most of the time it wasn't personal because they were doing the best they can. And if it was, you know what? You learned something. You learn not to surround yourself with that person anymore, because we know how important it is to be surrounded by the right people. So at that point, Grandma always said she never held a grudge against anybody. And that was the second reason why she lived to the ripe old age of 107. Love it. So if anybody wants to do a big share, now is that time. Throw it out to the world. Throw it in the chat. Maybe there's someone that you've got a little grudge against and you want to release it. I'll tell you, it feels good. And if you don't feel like it, that's okay too. But just do it in your heart and release it, whether you're driving or you're on the treadmill or you're just doing some work around the house, or maybe you're working and you have this tab in the background and you're listening to the replay. Just think about somebody who you're holding a grudge against, and let's let that go. Let's let that go. That's living beyond default. That's being your best self. That's doing the best you can with what you have. And that's the way that we want to show up for the world. Okay, so the 3 ways that Sarah Aloisio lived to the age of 107. Number 1, she danced. I'm dancing in the chair. You didn't see the hips going here. You know, Elvis was banned from gyrating his hips. They would not show the camera below his belly because they didn't want to show any gyrating on hips on TV. Can you imagine that back in the day? What a life. It's hilarious. So let's get back on. The last way that Sarah Aloisio stayed young and alive till the ripe age of 107, Itchy Nose Dave, was she didn't drink. Now, there's a lot to say about that. I quit drinking about 10 years ago. I was only doing it for 30 days, and I'm coming up to my 10-year anniversary. That's not to pat myself on the back. That's just to say that for me, I was ready to walk away from that and that lifestyle. It was hurting me. I'm not saying it's hurting you. I'm not saying it's hurting anybody. What I am saying is, though, there's probably times where we could put limits on ourselves, where we know when we're having too much and we know that it's kind of poisoning our body at times. Again, no judgment. We're just here to all grow and all to be self-reflective as a community, as a species, as entrepreneurs, as fathers, as mothers, as boyfriends, as girlfriends, or whatever you identify yourself as today. I'm going to identify myself as this plant. How does that sound? So please water me, whatever you identify yourself at. Yeah, I was kind of making fun there, and that's okay. Yeah, she didn't drink. And being in an Italian old school family, you'd think she would be pounding wine. She wasn't pounding wine. You know what she was pounding? Pasta and salad with a ton of vinegar. Oh my gosh, there you go. I'm going to add that one right now. The fourth reason why Sarah Aloisio lived to 107, because she ate a lot of vinegar. Who likes drinking apple cider vinegar? Who knows that it's good for them, right? Oh, it doesn't taste very good. But the funny thing is, like a lot of things in life, apple cider vinegar is good for you, but it doesn't taste very good at the time. And isn't that a metaphor for life? Because so often, what's good for us later doesn't feel good very now. Maybe like working out. Maybe like having the banana instead of having a piece of cake or a cookie, right? So Sarah Aloisio didn't drink. And that was another way that she said she kept her longevity. Now, those were things that she was able to control. And we're all about focusing on what we can control here. So ask yourself, where do you want to level up in your life? What are areas that you could control that you know you could be doing better in? There's some ways out there. There's little tiny micro habits or simple shifts that we could be making. Remember that presentation, 3 simple shifts? Oh yeah, I sure do. Break the mold. Well, there's little shifts that we can make. And whether it's dancing more, whether it's not holding a grudge and releasing that energy, maybe it's cutting back on drinking a little bit. Grandma had some good points, and those were ways that she could control. Now, what I do want to say, 2 things. Number one, Uncle Elon says a lot of things, and sometimes he gets in the weeds. I think he's a genius, and I love listening to him talk and what he says. And here's something that he brings up regularly in interviews. What he says is, it's not so much getting something right, but it's just being a little less wrong. And what an interesting way of putting that. Not so much that things that we're doing are necessarily wrong. It's just a way of kind of flipping that paradigm and that frame of where we see it from. So I'm trying to get, as opposed to trying to get something right, if we just do it a little bit less wrong, we'll get better. And I love when Uncle Elon says that. He says that regularly. Check out the Lex Friedman podcast. He was recently on there talking about AI, robots, and the future state of humanity. And I think it was I know it was Lex Friedman's longest podcast. It was like 7 hours. I'm an hour into it. It's going to take some time, okay? That's not one that you just bang out in one day, but check that one out. So those are the things that we can control. Now, what is something that grandma was not able to control? Well, we found this out from the doctors, and what a cool thing to have, okay? Her organs aged slower than the rest of her body. Her organs aged at less of a rate than time would normally have so. So now imagine that. Perhaps her time age was 107 years old. Perhaps her body age was 107 years old. But the organs might have only been 80, 85, 90. And we think that that's part of the reason why she didn't get old. Those organs, they stayed young. I believe, though, because of her mindset and because of the things that she did that she can control, that's what allowed her to never get old and live until 107. And this applies in all of our lives and in all of our businesses and our relationships and our finances. Where will we, language patterns, apply these gifts in our lives? Perhaps we had a business deal go south and we're holding a grudge against the other person. Well, what's that going to do? Is that going to bring the right client in? Is that going to bring the right next business partner in? No, it's going to be throwing out bad energy. As Carolyn says, and Nicole, it's going to unmanifest what's happening. And they're right. You're going to throw out the bad energy and it's not going to be good. So don't hold on to a grudge if the business deal didn't go well. Don't hold on to the grudge if your coworker or your boss says something. You know what you do? Take control of what you can. And eventually, if you don't like where you're at, you leave. We live in the safest, most abundant time in human history. Go out and get another career. And don't tell me it's not that easy. Of course it's hard, but you still can do it, right? So what about with family and relationships? Maybe, as Grandma said, she danced physically, maybe metaphorically. You want to dance more with your partner or your spouse and have date night. Maybe you want to dance more with your kid by going to play soccer or swimming or going on a hike, like Todd said, going fishing or on a bike ride or a walk. Where can you dance more with your family, right? And then instead of saying, where could we drink less, where could we be more present and more in the moment with our family, with our friends, and with ourselves? Where will we be more present with ourselves and not be thinking about what we could have done better in the past and what's coming up in the future because, oh my gosh, we're scared about it and we don't even know what's going to happen? Where can we apply these principles into our lives? If you have an idea, throw that in the chat before I share with you a little bit more. Okay, so Todd says, I've been working on responding, not reacting to situations that I find hard to deal with. Todd, boom, bingo. I absolutely love what you just said. Todd's working on responding, not reacting to situations. Think about that. How often when something happens, do we have that gut feeling to something trigger us and then we want to react to it? It happens all the time. I guarantee if that's one thing that we focused on, what Todd just said here, that in itself will change your day, change your week, and change the relationships that you have. Just take a breath. Sit back when something happens. Thanks for that share, Todd. Absolutely love that one. Robin says, I will never get old. I refuse. Philanthropy keeps the mind, the body, and the relationships alive and growing. Reach out for humanity. One contribution for sure. 49 years of sobriety. Oh, and be sure to spray your plant. Robin, I spray the plant. Thank you for the reminder of that. And now, Robin's been sober for 49 years. What I love is the philanthropy aspect. I just emceed Hopeful Beginnings. Thank you, Dr. Sandy. And thank you, Natalie Rodriguez, for inviting me to MC that amazing gala here in downtown Arlington Heights. And she is so right. Robin is so, not she, he. Robin is so right. Philanthropy keeps you young. I didn't even know what a nonprofit was before 2018. I mean, I've heard of them, but I really didn't know what they were until I joined the local chamber, the Schaumburg Business Association, and I realized how many people are in the nonprofit world. Carolyn Litton, Katie Bragansky Frank, Raghu Sundara, Ritesh Saw, Jason Stallard. That was me talking too quickly and not being present. So I'm going to take a breath here. There's so many people that have taught me and shared with me. Erica and Ann, and of course, Liz Thomas. So many of you have showed me the way and taught me about philanthropy and what it means to give, what it means to be a go-giver, and what it means to be connected to something bigger than yourself, because it's not all about us. We think the world revolves around us. I do at times, but it doesn't. We are so small in this world, in the big picture that's going on, and connecting to that philanthropy, that warms my heart. Thanks, Brother Robin. I so appreciate you saying that. Casey says, yeah, be sure to spray your plant. You know, it gets a little bit crispy on the edges, but I do spray it regularly. Okay. Michelle says, preach. Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. So some other ways that I've found out and that I've learned through research and actually applying this in my life to help us live longer. Now, I don't know if I'm going to live longer. I think I do, though. And I think I am. And I have better days because of it. One of the ways is sleep. And I know I've talked about sleep how many times. There are so many hacks right now that we can do to get better sleep. And Matthew Walker says that sleep is basically prolonging when we die. It's pushing those hours and those days forward of when we're actually going to pass away. So think of how important sleep is to you. Now, I'm not going to say you have to get a certain amount of hours. The doctors, and I'm not talking about doctors that said the food chain was eat a bunch of corn, okay? That's not what I'm saying. But research shows that 7 to 9 hours is a good sweet spot. Now, there are some people that can go 4, 5, 6. A lot of that is genetic, and it's very few and far between when people could do that. If you can, that's great. But remember, too, that the lack of sleep is shown to be prone in Alzheimer's patients and also diabetic patients, and a lot of people that die earlier than they should have. So let's work on our sleep, right? Let's dim those lights a half hour before we go to bed. Let's get off the social media and stop derping with the blue screens and being a cyborg connected to it. Let's disconnect from that and reconnect with ourselves, right? Let's make sure we haven't eaten for a few hours before we go to bed. Let's make sure it's dark in the room and it's quiet. Like, these are all little sleep hacks. Hey, here's another one. Wait to drink. If you drink coffee, wait to drink your morning coffee at least 90 minutes after you've awakened. And I learned this from Andrew Huberman. We all know who Andrew Huberman is. Super badass, right? So Andrew Huberman says that we have this chemical that's released in our body, and it's still being released as we awake. And that chemical release is helping us. is getting us out of the sleep. So it's like we're still almost kind of sleeping after we wake up. Have you ever still felt like you're sleeping after you wake up? Oh, I'm sure a lot of you have. And don't say no, because I know a few of you. But think about that. We've got this chemical. And when you drink caffeine, it stops that chemical from releasing. And then in the afternoon, that chemical comes out and you kind of get tired. So the point is, there's the science that backs it up. I'm going to listen to what Andrew Huberman says. I think for the most part, he's spot on with a lot of things. And wait 90 minutes before you drink your coffee. I think that's a good hack. So if anybody has a sleep hack that they want to throw in the comments, let's share that. And of course, if you want to share a little bit about what you're doing so you don't get old, share that in the comments too. But most importantly, I usually hang out with people younger than me, and I have found that the mindset of those who I'm around keeps me young. The mindset keeps me curious. It keeps me growing, and just being around that energy really amplifies my life. But it's not about my life. It's amplifying and Bluetoothing on who I'm around. So then when I go with my real estate clients, when I go and do public speaking, or I MC an event, when I come and do this live stream, when I'm raising capital for a senior living rollout, when I'm working with entrepreneurs and listing their $1 million homes, when I'm providing opportunities to family offices and more entrepreneurs in ways that they could invest their money, not just in the stock market. How I am showing up this way because of these things that I am doing, and because of the people that I'm surrounding myself with. That's giving me the energy, that's giving me the fuel, and that's giving me the vision to live beyond default. And I know we all have that in us. And there's been times where I haven't had it in me. For many years of my life, I didn't have it in me. But I all know that we have that little bit where we can make that simple shift. We can make that simple shift, live longer, and enjoy each day longer, and be our best for our family, our friends, our clients, ourselves, and of course, the world. Okay. We're coming to the end of the show here. It's been a half hour, and I like to keep it just around a half hour because nobody wants to hear me speak for more than a half hour, right? I said enough. We always want to leave while we're on top, just like Seinfeld did back in the day. So if you're watching this episode live, I want to thank you for being on episode 74 of Live Beyond Default live stream. We are live from the loft this morning in downtown Arlington Heights. We are on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, live on all those platforms. You can see the replays on those platforms. And of course, you can also watch the replay on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So let's give a shout out to our fellow humans in North Carolina and the states that got hit by the hurricane. I know Robin's heading out there. Let's give a little love and a little good vibes to them. And of course, as Gabby Vargas taught us, text somebody today, I'm thinking of you. And on that note, thank you for watching. Make it a great week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Carolyn Litton's going to be on Live Beyond Default live stream, episode 75. Thank you.